A version that doesn't rehearse comebacks for people you've already outgrown. A version that doesn't waste energy holding doors open for chapters that were never meant to follow you into the next season. You've felt glimpses of them in the quiet moments when no one was watching, when you said no and meant it, when you stayed disciplined just one more day, when you stopped explaining and simply moved. They live just beyond the line you keep redrawing. That version isn't louder. They're just done looking back. Because at some point, you stop negotiating with the mirror. You stop folding when fear taps your shoulder. And you start walking like you know the road behind you has nothing left to teach. You don't need another sign. You are the signal. This isn't about changing. It's about becoming. And once you do, there's no return to smallness, no reverse gear, no reruns, only forward, only fire. And it begins right here, right now, with one decision. There comes a moment in every life when the mirror stops lying, when you stop pretending you're fine staying where you are. When the weight of who you were finally becomes heavier than the unknown of who you could become. And in that moment, a voice inside you whispers, "You were never meant to stay here. You were not designed to circle the same mountain of mediocrity over and over again. Not when your soul was built for summits. Not when your blood remembers what it means to rise. You've been surviving with the emergency brake on. You've been negotiating with your future in exchange for your comfort. And I need you to hear me now. You will never be free until you burn the bridges back to who you were. Because you can't become the one who rises until you become the one who never retreats. This is your turning point, not the kind made with noise or applause, but the silent kind, the kind where something inside you dies and something greater is born. The old you is not your enemy. It was your cocoon. It sheltered your smallness until you were strong enough to break it. But now the walls are too tight, the air too thin. You cannot breathe in a life designed for a lesser version of yourself. Abraham Lincoln once said the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. You cannot solve the pain of the present by clinging to the patterns of your past. So you must rise, not like a motivational poster, not like a hashtag, but like fire from ashes, like steel forged through suffering. Because the truth is, you won't escape the fire. You'll learn to walk through it. That's where greatness is born, in the furnace. Edison didn't become a genius in comfort. He became one after 1,000 failures laughed in his face. Carnegie wasn't handed a throne. He bled his way up through steel and smoke. Disney didn't draw magic out of success. He carved it out of bankruptcy, heartbreak, and ridicule. And you were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to decide. To decide, you will not bow to your doubts. To decide, you will no longer make peace with procrastination. To decide that you are done being someone you don't even recognize in the mirror. Let's talk about belief. The backbone of transformation. Not belief in miracles, not belief in chance, but belief in your own becoming. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Because belief isn't a thought, it's a command to the universe. It's you throwing a match into the dry fields of your life and saying, let it all burn, so something truer can rise from the smoke. The man or woman who becomes unstoppable is not the one with talent or money or luck. It's the one who refuses to go back. The one who understands that belief isn't just faith, it's a vow. It's a sacred promise to your future self that you will not betray who you were born to be. And from that vow comes vision, not wishful thinking, not Pinterest board dreaming, but real, relentless clarity. A vision so vivid you can smell it. A future so real it mocks your present. And you chase it not because it's easy, but because you finally see it's the only life that ever fit. You are not lost. You are just being recalibrated. Every delay, a divine detour. Every disappointment, a chisel in the hands of destiny. Every betrayal, a redirection toward your alignment. And when you get that clarity, when the fog lifts, you move with a new kind of precision. Not faster, not harder, but truer. And truth will take you places that hustle never could. You don't need to grind to prove your worth. You need to align to reveal your power. Because once you see who you really are, once you catch even a glimpse of the giant sleeping inside you, there's no going back to crawling. But vision alone is not enough. The world is littered with brilliant dreamers who never moved. What separates the legend from the lost is discipline. Discipline is the war you fight when the crowd is gone. It's the decision you make when no one is watching. It's the early morning when your bed feels like heaven and your purpose feels like hell. But you rise anyway, because your future isn't waiting on your feelings. It's waiting on your follow-through. You will never outperform your standards, and you will never build an empire on the foundation of excuses. The real ones know. Success doesn't come to those who want it. It comes to those who prepare for it like it's already theirs. And every time you choose the hard thing, you carve a deeper groove of power into your identity. You don't need motivation. You need a standard that refuses to break. You need a code that doesn't flinch. Because once you taste the integrity of your own discipline, you become addicted to your own potential. And that's when the shift happens. The one that changes everything. You no longer seek comfort. You seek challenge. You no longer chase applause. You chase alignment. You no longer fear failure. You fear regret. You become the one who never looks back, because you're too busy building what's ahead. Barsi, to be continued in next chunk seamlessly. You don't build a legacy by feeling inspired. You build it by staying dangerous to your doubts, by staring down the impulse to play it safe and saying no more. I was not made for cages. I was not born to blend in. There is a version of you that already exists in the future. A version that never flinched. A version that didn't just survive the fire. They walked out of it refined, sharper, clearer, untouchable. You don't find that version by looking forward in fear. You find it by acting in faith, by moving as if the outcome is already written. Because it is. But you'll never read the next chapter until you close the last one with finality. Stop rereading the pain. Stop quoting the past. Stop negotiating with memories that were meant to expire. You're not missing out. You're moving on. The ones who make it, they don't carry their pain like baggage. They wear it like armor. Every betrayal, a new edge. Every failure, a refined strategy. Every dark night of the soul, a deeper well of power. That's what it means to become the one who never goes back. You stop needing closure from people who were never meant to walk with you into destiny. You stop apologizing for outgrowing your environment. You stop shrinking so that others don't feel small around your light. You weren't born to babysit comfort zones. You were born to blow the doors off them. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you moved like there was no reverse gear? What if every decision you made from this moment forward was made as the person you're becoming, not the one you've been trying to escape? Burn the list of excuses. Bury the narratives of delay. Evict the almost and maybes from your vocabulary. Because average dies the day you decide it's beneath you. That doesn't make you arrogant. That makes you aware. Aware of the fact that you are the gatekeeper. That your life doesn't happen to you, it expands from you. That every thought is either pulling you forward or dragging you back. And the moment you understand that, you stop playing defense. You go on the offensive. You build the mindset of a person who refuses to be owned by circumstances. Learning becomes your obsession, not to impress, but to evolve, to sharpen the tools of a warrior mind. You no longer study for applause. You study for war. You read to fortify your thoughts. You listen to train your focus. You move through each day with the hunger of someone who knows they are running out of time and refuses to waste a single second of it pretending to be someone they're not. The world doesn't belong to the educated. It belongs to the self-educated, to the ones who rewrote their own programming, who questioned everything, who weren't afraid to unlearn comfort and relearn power. But none of this matters without action. All the clarity, all the belief, all the vision. It dies in your mind if it's not expressed in your behavior. Action is the evidence of faith. Action is the difference between who you are and who you claim to be. You can't think your way into transformation. You move into it, bleed into it, suffer into it, rise through it. Every step matters. Every day you say yes to the hard thing. The old you dies a little more, and the new you becomes undeniable. You don't need to announce your change. Let your discipline speak. Let your habits speak. Let the silence of your daily execution scream louder than any status update ever could. You are not chasing a new life. You are embodying it, and embodiment is violent. It tears through everything that was fake, everything that was inherited, everything that was survival-based, but no longer serves your destiny. You don't get to keep your comfort and claim your crown. You don't get to stay the same and see a new reality. You must become the one who never goes back, not because it's easy, but because now you finally remember who you are. You remember now you were never meant to fold. You were never meant to bow to the voice in your head that said, "Be realistic. Play it safe. Don't get your hopes up." That voice isn't wisdom. It's the echo of a fearful version of you. A version trained by trauma, disappointment, and small thinking. A version that believed survival was the goal, because it had forgotten what it meant to live. But something inside you never forgot. That whisper, that ache, that fire. It's always been there, and now it's turning into a roar. You're not here to repeat what's been done. You're here to do what no one saw coming. To rise from statistics, to outgrow generational ceilings, to build a life that doesn't apologize for its power. Because when you become the one who never goes back, you stop being a product of your environment, and you start becoming the architect of it. You're no longer defined by your family's past. You define the legacy that comes next. You're no longer chained to what broke you. You become proof that it couldn't stop you. You don't ask if you're worthy anymore, you decide you are. And that decision, it rewrites everything. It rewrites how you show up in rooms. No more shrinking. No more scanning for permission. No more second-guessing the sound of your own voice. You walk in grounded, clear, rooted. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've earned your identity. You've faced your demons. You've fought your tendencies. You've slaughtered the old stories that said you'd always be behind. Now you lead, not from ego, but from embodiment. Because when you become the one who never goes back, you don't need to dominate. You just move. And the world adjusts. You'll start to notice something. People will treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because you did. When your energy upgrades, your environment has two choices: evolve or exit, and you stop begging it to stay. The old you feared loss. The new you understands. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. If it costs your growth, it's not sacred. If it asks you to betray your evolution to maintain a connection, it was never love. So you let go, easily, elegantly, without burning bridges, but without slowing your pace either. You stop mourning what you were never meant to carry past this chapter. You start building for the version of you that's coming, the version that demands space, that demands alignment, that demands truth. And here's the truth. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need more motivation. You need more integrity. Every day is a vote for the future. Every hour is a seed. Every thought is a blueprint. What you focus on multiplies. What you tolerate trains you. What you repeat, you become. So don't ask for change. Become it. Don't hope for healing. Be the one who heals. Don't dream of impact. Live in a way that your name becomes a permission slip for someone else to rise. This is not just about achievement. This is about becoming undeniable. A person so aligned, so rooted, so clear in who they are that the world has no choice but to respond. You don't need to demand respect. You command it by the way you carry your calling. You don't need to seek influence. You embody it. And you do it all without screaming, without chasing, without proving. Because the one who never goes back doesn't chase validation. They live in such a way that validation becomes irrelevant. And that is the power you've been searching for. Not the power to control others, but the power to no longer be controlled by your own past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your delays. You are not your insecurities, your addictions, or your doubts. You are the one who overcame them, the one who stayed standing, the one who woke up and refused to return to sleepwalking through life. You wake up different, not because the world changed, but because you did. You're no longer waiting to feel ready. You're no longer asking the calendar for permission to begin. You rise, because now you remember. You are not a chapter. You are the whole book being rewritten in real time. Every breath you take with intention is a paragraph that declares, I am no longer who I was. Every disciplined action is a sentence that whispers, I will never go back. Because this time, it's different. This time, you're not chasing a feeling. You're building a foundation. This time, you're not inspired by hype. You're grounded by principle. Principle is what carries you when motivation disappears. Principle is what moves you when life tries to bury you again. Principle is what carves the new you into existence, even when the world tries to resurrect your old one. And that's the difference between the few who change and the many who almost do. The few understand. Transformation is less about intensity, more about consistency. Less about fire in the moment, more about the fire that refuses to die. That fire is inside you now, not a bonfire of ego, but a slow, holy burn of conviction. The kind that cannot be negotiated with. The kind that says, this is who I am now, and nothing behind me has the power to pull me back. Because now you've tasted something deeper than temporary wins. You've tasted what it means to respect yourself. To keep a promise to yourself, to walk past every excuse, every craving, every urge to quit, and still choose the higher road. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how powerful that makes you? In a world that runs back at the first sign of discomfort. You stayed. You held the line. You trained your nervous system to stand still in the storm. You trained your soul to bend but not break. And you paid for it. Yes, you paid for it in tears. You paid in isolation. You paid in silent nights where no one clapped for you, where no one saw how hard it was to not run back to the old familiar. But you didn't just survive those nights. You forged yourself in them. You learned that growth doesn't come from always winning. It comes from no longer needing to. You learned that confidence isn't loud. It's quiet. It's steady. It's built on 1,000 private victories no one ever sees. And now you walk different, because you've met your shadow. And you didn't run. You integrated it. You shook hands with your fear and turned it into fuel. You turned why me into watch me. And that shift changes everything. You are no longer available for conversations that drain you, no longer participating in cycles that keep you spinning. no longer loyal to identities that you've outgrown. You are no longer seduced by the drama of stagnation. You are magnetized by movement, by purpose, by evolution, and you stop needing others to understand it. Because becoming the one who never goes back means you no longer translate your truth into a language for people who've chosen to stay behind. Let them misunderstand. Let them guess. Let them gossip. Because while they talk, you build. While they watch, you rise. Or while they reminisce, you become unrecognizable. And unrecognizable is the goal. You were not born to stay familiar to the people who met you in your half-formed state. You were not born to stay digestible to a system designed to keep you small. You were born to disrupt, to rebuild, to lead. Not with perfection, but with presence, with ownership, with the kind of energy that cannot be faked and cannot be ignored. The energy of someone who has faced their lowest point and chose to rise anyway. That's who you are now. That's who you are now. Not because someone gave you a certificate, not because the world finally clapped, but because you decided. You made the internal shift no one could see. You drew the line no one could cross. You made the vow that no version of your past self could argue with. And in that vow, you became free. Free from the addiction to outside validation. Free from the performance mask you wore to blend in. Free from the patterns that kept you pacing a prison cell with the door wide open. You walked out. And this time, you didn't leave a trail of breadcrumbs, because you knew even a single crumb is an invitation to return. Even a single excuse is an open door back to mediocrity. Even a single compromise is a slow undoing of the new you. So you sealed the exits. You deleted the options. You silenced the voices that once had a vote in your future. This is what full commitment feels like. Not frantic, not loud, but immovable. You are no longer at war with the old you. You've buried them with honor, with respect for what they carried, with gratitude for how long they endured. But now you rise for something more. You rise for legacy. You rise for alignment. You rise because you are the one your future family will point to and say, "That's when everything changed." You become the break in the chain. The first flame in the dark. The proof that a new story is possible. Not because it was easy, but because you refused to quit. There is no secret beyond this. Decide, then become. Burn the boats. Burn the mask. Burn the version of you that needed backup plans to feel safe. You don't need safety anymore. You need clarity. You need standards. You need execution. You need the quiet discipline of a soul that knows retreat is no longer an option. The world won't always applaud you for this. Don't expect it to. The world is addicted to the familiar, and nothing about your rise is familiar. But you weren't born to be understood. You were born to transform, to break the patterns your parents never escaped, to heal the wounds your past never addressed, to speak the truth your generation needs to hear. You don't go back because you're carrying too much forward. Too many dreams, too many prayers, too many lives connected to the decision you made to become. That's what this is, a sacred becoming. And once you've tasted that, once you've felt the shift in your bones, you can't fit inside smallness ever again. You stop negotiating with the mirror. You stop explaining your choices to people who still live inside the cages you escaped. You stop questioning your worth because of temporary resistance. This is the moment where you become inevitable. Inevitable because your standard never drops. Inevitable because your mind is unshakable. Inevitable because your actions are no longer dictated by emotion, but by alignment. And that alignment makes you magnetic. You attract opportunities that match your discipline. You attract relationships that match your self-respect. You attract outcomes that were impossible to the old you because you became someone new. Not by pretending, not by branding, but by becoming. And that is the power of the one who never goes back. They are reborn without asking for permission. They evolve without needing applause. They build in silence, and their results roar. There's a certain silence that follows real transformation. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because your life begins to speak louder than your words ever could. You don't post about every move. You don't broadcast every shift. You simply move differently. Because now you carry something deeper than motivation. You carry certainty, a knowing that doesn't shake when the pressure rises, a confidence that doesn't fade when the crowd leaves, a strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real. You've become the one who shows up. Not just when it's easy, not just when it's new, but when it's necessary. The one who walks through fire without flinching. Not because they enjoy the heat, but because they've already died to who they were. And once you've died, to the old. The flames can't touch you anymore. You're no longer afraid of the storm. You are the storm. And storms don't ask for permission. People will ask you what changed. They'll try to find the moment, the event, the quote, the catalyst. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 moments. 1,000 times you wanted to quit and didn't. 1,000 times you felt fear but moved anyway. 1,000 small deaths to your lesser self that led to one great awakening. You didn't become this overnight. You chose this again and again and again. And each time you did, your soul grew louder than your self-doubt. Now the choice isn't hard. Now the line is drawn. Now there is no debate between the old you and the new, because the old voice doesn't live here anymore. This is your new default action over hesitation. Discipline over drama. Purpose over popularity. Movement over meaninglessness. You don't need adrenaline to move anymore. You don't need motivation. You've trained your nervous system to trust one thing. You will show up, even when it's hard, even when no one claps, even when the enemy in your mind wakes up screaming lies. You rise anyway. You're not chasing results. You are the result. You are the walking evidence of what happens when someone stops hoping and starts becoming. This is the rebirth, the shedding of timelines you outgrew, the burial of the character you used to play, the resurrection of a soul that's finally done pretending. And now you live with fire behind your eyes. Not the fire of ego, but the fire of someone who made it out of the pit and turned their pain into prophecy. You know what's at stake. You've tasted the emptiness of playing small. You've worn the regret of saying, maybe someday, and now you move like someone who will never utter those words again. Because the dream you carry is too sacred, the legacy too loud, the calling too costly to entertain comfort for even one more second. You're done asking, what if I fail? Now you ask, what if I don't? What if you rise? What if you succeed beyond comprehension? What if you become the person your future is already waiting for? What if everything you've endured wasn't punishment, but preparation? Now you see it. The tears weren't wasted. The setbacks weren't failures. The losses weren't losses. They were chisels. And now you've been carved into someone different. Someone stronger. Someone clearer. Someone that doesn't go back. Because they remember what it cost to get here. You don't trade freedom for familiarity. You don't trade power for peacekeeping. You don't trade your future for friendships rooted in your past. You build. You become. You lead. And you do it without asking anyone if it's okay. And now, you've reached the point of no return. Not in fear, not in desperation, but in power. You look back not with longing, but with reverence. You honor who you were, but you no longer owe that version of you your loyalty, because that version got you here, but it cannot take you there. The old you was necessary, but the new you, the one you are now, that's the version your vision has been waiting on. And this version doesn't move with hesitation. They move with authority. This version doesn't beg for time. They command the moment. This version doesn't hope the world changes. They become the change. They build day by day, word by word, breath by breath. A life that echoes far beyond their name. You are no longer defined by your wounds. You are defined by how you rose from them. You are no longer controlled by your cravings. You are led by your convictions. You don't fear hard things. You hunt them. You don't get tired and quit. You get tired and refocus. You don't beg the world to open a door. You build your own house because you finally understand the door you've been knocking on was inside you all along. And now that you've stepped through it, there's nothing left to return to. You are the one who made it out. You are the one who broke the cycle. You are the one who rewrote the rules, who set a new standard, who proved that your past wasn't your prophecy. Your decision was. You didn't just change your life. You changed your lineage. You didn't just become successful. You became solid, rooted, unshakable, unstoppable. Because when the fire came, you didn't run. You didn't retreat. You didn't shrink. You became. And now the world feels it. Every room you enter, every project you touch, every word you speak. You carry the frequency of someone who cannot be moved. That's the power of the one who never goes back. They are not the loudest, not the flashiest, not the trendiest, but they are certain. They are clear. They are committed. And because of that, they are undeniable. So this is your moment, not to prove anything, not to announce anything, but to walk forward with your head high, your spine straight, and your spirit locked in. You don't owe the past one more second. You don't owe your fear one more breath. You don't owe your comfort one more compromise. You owe your future everything. So become the one who never goes back, and don't just chase greatness. Embody it. Let your life be the answer to every doubt that ever haunted you. Let your discipline be the thunder that silences every lie. Let your presence be the prophecy fulfilled. You are not almost. You are not later. You are now. And from this moment forward, you go all in. You burn the backup plan. You silence the noise. You become the one who never hides again, the one who never hesitates again, the one who never goes back, because they finally understand. There is nothing worth returning to, only destiny ahead. And now you walk it. You'll notice it in the little things first. How you sit taller, how silence doesn't scare you anymore, how you no longer entertain what once derailed you. Not because you've become someone else, but because you've finally stopped abandoning who you really are. No fireworks, no parade, just a quiet resolve that says, I've come too far to turn around now. You won't need to announce it. People will feel it, in your presence, in your patterns, in the way you carry your peace like armor, and your purpose like a compass. You're not who you were, and you're not going back to gather what growth already outpaced. From here on out, you don't revisit dead ends. You don't resuscitate expired dreams. You don't reach for what once made you forget your worth. You build forward. You speak less, do more. You walk lighter, think clearer, move sharper. And if you ever wonder what changed, the answer is simple. You stopped waiting. You stopped doubting. You became. Not perfect, not finished, but permanent. You became the one who never needed to look back again. And that is when everything ahead finally began.